Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I just want to start off by saying sorry if the lighting goes in and out throughout this video. I'm using natural lighting and it's actually a really bright and sunny day today, as you can tell by this, and I usually film on cloudy days, and if you can hear birds or cars or planes outside, please ignore that. I have my door open and I have the window open because it is so hot in here and I actually need the breeze. And apologies if you can see any flies buzzing around in the background. So as you guys can see by the title of this video, this is another story time video, and I really wanted to share this story with you guys because I think I've mentioned it before on my channel, but I've never really told you guys the full story. As you guys can see by the title of this video, this is the story of how I almost lost my arm. Like, they almost had to amputate my arm. So it was this arm here, so it was my left arm. Thank goodness I'm right-handed, and I just really wanted to tell this story. I have got some notes on my phone because I was talking to my mum about this because I was quite young when this happened. I've got a few photos on my phone of that time. I don't have any photos of me in hospital, and I don't really have too many photos of like my recovery and all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's jump into this video. I just want to start by saying I was really young when this happened. I think this happened in 2004, so I was 6 when this happened. I'll kind of say my experience and then I'll kind of jump to like my mum's point of view and then so forth. I remember I think it was a Friday lunchtime, and I ate my lunch. I remember I didn't eat my grapes because I was saving my grapes for when I got home and was going to have them for afternoon tea. And I finished my lunch and then I went with one of my friends and her sister. I won't say which friend it is just for their privacy, but it is still someone that I'm friends with today. So I went with her and her sister and we went to go and play on the playground. Obviously I'm in primary school at this point, and I was playing on the slide with my friend and her sister. Now this slide is quite high up and it's quite like wavy, like it kind of goes like that, and I remember we were kind of doing like a train going down the slide. We were taking turns, so it would be like my friend, her sister and me, and then it would be like the sister, me and my friend. Like we were kind of just swapping places and all going down the slide together. And I remember we've done it like 3 or 4 times before, and on this particular ride down I think I was sitting behind my friend or my friend's sister. I can't remember who was in front of me, but I remember we kind of went over one of the bumps and then we were kind of at like that raised part and I lost my grip. I think they just went too fast down and I lost the grip and I fell. I fell off at the highest part of the slide and it was a long way down to the ground. I was a very small 6-year-old, so it was bark, and I believe I landed on the bark on my elbow. I don't really remember too much of what happened when I fell. I know everything went black for like a split second. I could hear in the background my friend and my friend's sister running over to me to see how I was, and I think I was just in shock because I didn't really talk a lot, I don't think, and so they got the duty teacher to come over, and it was actually my teacher of my class, and she kind of helped me up and took me to what's called the sick bay, where 2 kind of beds, and you just kind of sit and wait for like one of the office people to come and see you. I think I was wearing my little green school polo shirt and I was wearing my little bike shorts and I was wearing my jumper over the top. I can't remember if I was wearing my dress or not, and I knew that I couldn't move my arm. Like I moved my arm like this, so that's like not even a lot, and that stung. Like that hurt like a 20 out of 10. I didn't realize at that point that you could break bones. I just knew that my arm hurt. I don't think anyone in my class had broken anything before. Hopefully I'm in kind of the same position. My battery just died, so I just changed it. So I was like the first person to break something. I was getting really freaked out. I remember I was just in shock this whole time. So I landed on my elbow like this on the ground and my elbow went this way. Obviously I couldn't see because I was wearing my jersey. I'm actually really thankful that I was wearing my jersey, because if I wasn't wearing my jersey and my arm was exposed, I would be able to see that my bone was this way, and that would have freaked me out as a 6-year-old. So now I think I'll jump to my mum's point of view. Keep in mind at this point I am just sitting in the sick bay. The office people have come and seen me and they've gone back out to ring mum. I remember actually, before I jumped to my mum's point of view, that they clipped my arm in my jersey sleeve to my actual jersey, so it was kind of like clipped here so that I didn't move my arm. So my mum said that she was making meatballs for dinner when she got the call from school. My mum told me that she originally was worried about my teeth because my teeth are not straight. People always love to comment that on my videos, being like broken, because I think they told her that I landed like face first, but I actually landed elbow first and then on my face. So my mum obviously got a worried call, and she says that she thinks on the call that they were downplaying how bad it was because they knew that it was broken, but they obviously didn't want to freak mum out and they didn't want to freak me out. No one ever told me that my arm was broken at school or that it could be broken. None of my friends said anything. My little sister Shelby was 4 at this time. Anya was not even around. So mum obviously came with Shelby to school, and I remember my friends were staying with me in the sick bay until my mum got there. And then my mum got there, she came in and asked me what was wrong, and I said my arm really hurt, and then I think she wanted to pull up my jersey just to see how bad my arm was, and I said no, like it really hurts. And then I remember, because it was obviously clipped here, and I think school put it in some sort of sling, I can't quite remember, and my mum like moved it out like a little bit further than what I had, and I remember it hurt so bad. Like I can't remember if I screamed or if I just like told mum off very sternly, like do not do that, like that really hurts. She was like, okay, right, we need to take you to A&E. They didn't end up calling an ambulance for some reason. My mum just drove me, so I got in mum's car. She somehow did my seatbelt and we drove to the hospital. For those of you that don't know, my dad works at the hospital. I don't want to say what my dad does at the hospital just for privacy reasons. A&E is like the emergency department where you go. So my dad met us at A&E. My mum was quite freaked out. I was still in shock at this point, and I remember they got mum to fill out a form, and obviously I had to reiterate to mum what happened. I think mum also got my like school bag and stuff from school and took that with us. I think the hospital got quite freaked out that I was really young, and they got one of the doctors to come over straight away, and I believe they put me on some sort of bed, and they obviously had to get my uniform off to try and see what was wrong with my arm, but obviously I couldn't move, so they had to cut me out of my uniform. So I believe they left my shorts on. I know they cut off my jersey. Can't remember if they cut me out of my t-shirt or not. My mum couldn't look when they cut me out of my jersey because she knew my arm was bad. My dad looked, and like I've said before, my dad works at the hospital. My dad was like 40 something at this point, and he's worked at the hospital since he was 17. So my dad has seen a lot in his time at the hospital, and when my arm got exposed, he fainted. If that doesn't tell you how bad my arm was, I don't know what will. Obviously I didn't look, because as a 6-year-old there was no way I was looking at that. I get like freaked out enough as it is now with like blood and bones and all that stuff, that as a 6-year-old there was no way I was looking at my arm. And I asked my dad what he can remember about that moment before he fainted, and he said that it looked like I had 2 elbows and the top wasn't attached to the bottom. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And mum said that they gave me morphine for the pain. Hospital at this point was quite busy, so I couldn't go into surgery straight away. I think they had like a doctor come and look at my arm, and they confirmed obviously that it was broken. I didn't know how badly it was broken, but they knew it was broken and that I needed surgery, but there was no one to do surgery yet. I remember I was there for like the whole evening. I'm gonna have to read this bit off of my phone because this is where like I needed mum's kind of help to remember this, because I don't really remember. I think I ended up having the surgery at like 10 or 11 at night or something, and I remember they put me into a room with another girl who had broken her arm as well. I believe she was like similar age to me. I think she was a little bit older. I think she was like 8 or 10. Her name was Hope. I remember that because we were like talking, because I was a very social kid, and she had broken her arm too, but it wasn't as bad as my break. I have no idea who she is to this day, so if you happen to stumble upon this video and you were in a room in the hospital in Hawke's Bay with a little 6-year-old called Paige, can you comment down below, because that would be really cool. Yeah, I was just trying to kind of distract myself so that I wasn't focusing on the fact that I had just broken my arm. And then obviously it got like later in the evening, And I remember I was asking mum for my grapes because I was really hungry at this point. I remember I hadn't eaten very much and mum said no, and I was getting really frustrated because I was really hungry, but obviously you can't eat a certain amount of time before surgery, which I didn't understand as a 6-year-old. I think mum told me that I would be sick and I'm like, I don't care, I just want my food. But then eventually I went into surgery and it took 3.5 hours. I thought it was 3 hours, but it was apparently 3.5 hours for them to fix my arm, which is a really long surgery. I've never had a surgery that long to this day. So that just shows how bad it was. If you guys do not like gross things or you're gonna find this bit disturbing, please look away. I will try and put a timestamp or when you guys can skip to if you don't want to see this. But they put pins in my arm and my mum, being my mum, kept them. Don't know why. As an adult, these are really freaky to look at, so obviously if you don't want to watch this bit, I totally understand. You guys can ignore this address because I don't live there anymore, but I'll see if I can show you. These are the pins that went in my arm, so they literally had to pin my arm back together. I'm just gonna open it, but I'm not gonna get them out. There is a little bit of my skin on there, which is actually disgusting, but these are massive. Like, this little tin plastic container thing doesn't even fit them. Like, they're still like popping out. Yeah, like that is disgusting, right? So those were in my arm and it was almost to the point where my bone was almost poking out of my skin. Like, it was like this close, and they really thought that I was gonna lose my arm that day because it was so badly broken, and I don't know if the doctors even knew if they could fix it. I don't think they'd had many breaks that bad in the hospital at that time, like in that time in history. Like, I think it was one of the more serious breaks according to my dad. So yeah, after my surgery I obviously went to my own room. Mum describes me as like this tiny kid on a massive hospital bed. Mum told me that I had my arm on a little skiboo monitor because they were concerned about blood flow to my like hands and stuff, and that's why they thought they were going to have to amputate, because the blood flow was, I think it was quite slow. So I remember I had my little finger. I actually quite liked having my finger in this little thing, but my finger was kind of like held up. Mum thought at one point that my fingers went cold, so she called the doctor, which obviously isn't good. Like, if my fingers go cold, that means that the blood is not getting to my fingers, which means that something's gone wrong in my arm, so they would have probably had to amputate if that happened. But the doctor said it was fine and it was okay. So I was in hospital for a week, and I remember during that time I had to have help going to the bathroom. I remember the later half of the week I would go to like the playroom and like play with the toys and stuff, and I remember my mum and dad would take different shifts of who would stay with me in the hospital and who would go home. Obviously it was kind of easier for dad to come in and check on me because he works at the hospital, and I remember I was just doing like lots of crafts in my room, and I would watch, I think I would watch a little bit of TV. I think I read a little bit too, can't quite remember. But that's kind of all I remember from being in hospital. Obviously that's a long time to be in hospital as a 6-year-old, and I remember the food at the hospital was really bad, and it really sucked like having a shower and like needing help to go to the bathroom. After the week I obviously went home, and I think I had 2 weeks at home without going to school or church. Like, I remember I wouldn't even sleep in my bed. I would sleep on the couch and I would bring my duvet. I got all of my teachers to bring my schoolwork to me. The same teacher that like helped me to the sick bay when I broke my arm, the one that was on duty, was also the teacher that taught the new entrance kids, and she would actually come to my house and drop off my schoolwork and pick up my schoolwork that I'd done. So I would kind of just do that on the couch, and then I would watch TV and stuff, which actually as a young kid I'm actually really thankful to my past self that I kept up with school. Like, I didn't really let this injury kind of stop me from doing my schoolwork, which was super nice, and I'm really proud of my younger self for having the motivation to do that. Probably part of that was mum telling me that I needed to do it, but I'm actually really thankful that I did it. Mum and dad's church friend brought me a colouring book and colouring pencils. I remember like people from church would come and visit me with like cards and like gifts, and I remember my Sunday school class made this massive like get well soon card and then had everyone sign it in the inside, which I thought was really cute. A lot of the stuff I do still have in storage, so it's a bit of a shame that I don't have it here with me, but I do want to do like a video going through my special box that mum kept when I was a kid. I think it's like from when I was like in her belly up until I was 10, so there's probably some stuff in there from this time. So yeah, it just made me feel really loved and not alone basically. My mum would always come in and ask to check my fingers each day because she was getting really freaked out that the blood flow would stop, and I didn't really know what she was doing. As a kid, I would just get annoyed that she kept asking me to like hold my fingers, and I'm like, no. My mum said that she came to school with me for the first couple of weeks when I could obviously go back to school, and apparently I was just doing half days, so I would go up until lunchtime and then she would take me home after lunch just to kind of ease myself back into it. And she was quite scared that someone was gonna knock my arm because I never had my arm in a cast. It was always just in a sling, and I was really gutted because I really wanted a cast, but it obviously was too badly broken for a cast, so they just put it in a sling. And I remember as well, whenever I would need to have a bath and I would have to take the sling off, I would get really scared to look at my arm. I'll show you guys the scar in a second too actually. I remember my arm was really wrinkled and there were like black like crosses on my arm, obviously from where they like had to do the surgery, and my arm was like this orangey yellow. It was kind of like the yellow on this of the iodine that they use. I don't know why. I know they use dyes when they do surgeries and stuff, but I don't know why they had it on my arm. But that was on my arm and it was just disgusting. Like I did not want to look at it, and mum would be like, your arm is fine, like you can look at it, and I'm just like, no, it looks disgusting, like no. So that's kind of all the information I have for the like recovery at home. So then we get to one of the worst days of my life when they had to take these out. My dad took me to get these out, and I believe my mum was there too, but my dad was the one that took me to the villa, and then I think mum met us there, and I was terrified that this was gonna hurt. Mum said, oh no, you'll be fine, it won't hurt, like you'll be okay. And mum thought I was gonna be put on anesthetic, so that's why she was telling me that it like wasn't gonna hurt. I was more okay with the thought of anesthetic, but I was still like, what if I can still feel it, like this, that and the other. And it wasn't even in like the surgery ward, it was just in one of the villas. I remember they took me in and sat me on this bed, and then they just pulled this massive curtain and they said it won't hurt, like it'll be fine. And I had to put my arm out and I was terrified, and they pulled them out with pliers on a 6-year-old unsedated. I don't know what the laws were in place back then. I don't know what the protocol was in the hospital, but I feel like if you were pulling metal pins out of a 6-year-old's arm, you should put them on sedation. So that was literally one of the most traumatic moments of my life. I was screaming. It hurt so bad. I think my arm after that was put in a sling, but I felt so sick after that. I got really frustrated at mum because she'd lied to me and said it wouldn't hurt. Let me tell you, it frickin' hurt. I'm glad they're out of my arm now, but oh my goodness, I would not go back to that moment at all, and I never wish that on anyone. Even my worst enemy, I would never wish that kind of pain on them. And my arm healed fine. Yeah, I guess I'll show you guys the scar. Sorry if you can hear the plane in the background, but I think you guys can kind of see the scar there. So there's a massive scar. It's literally like that long, but it's really nice and like faint now. There's obviously like a little bit of a circle there. Also got this little one here, which is also from that time as well. That's all I kind of have written down. That's all I can kind of remember, and I can still like move my arm. Thank the Lord and praise God that my arm healed fine, because yeah, there was a good chance I would have lost it that day. Sorry that I don't have many photos. I am trying to get hold of my x-ray as well from the hospital, but it is proving quite difficult. I did have a copy of my x-rays, but they went to my school and mum doesn't think they came back. That's a bit of a shame, because as an adult I actually want to see how bad I broke it. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this story, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Please make sure to turn on the notifications and check out my social media. It's always linked down below. Mum says it was a very traumatic experience for her. It was a very traumatic experience for me. If you guys want to watch any other story times that I have on my channel, I'll leave that playlist down below and in the eye as well. We'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.